Establishing a country is a complex endeavor. Even if you manage to assemble your own military, issue passports, define territory, appoint a head of state, and implement a legal system, it doesn't guarantee recognition as a legitimate nation. Just take Kosovo, considered part of Serbia by a significant portion of the world, or Somaliland, which, despite having a robust legal argument for statehood, is acknowledged by virtually no one. These examples are just the tip of the iceberg, the ones that make headlines. Delve beyond the news, and you'll discover numerous aspiring nations pleading for acknowledgement. Some are situated a considerable distance away, while others may be closer to home than you might imagine. 10. The Republic of Lakotah. Envision the opportunity to explore a freshly recognized foreign nation in North America, a country comparable in size to Syria, where non-European languages resonate, an ancient realm that has been the cherished home of a resilient people for centuries. Well, here's a revelation for you. Lakotah is not just a concept, it's a tangible entity waiting to be discovered in the heart of the Midwest. Extending over 1,600 kilometers, 1,000 miles, across the states of Montana, Nebraska, Wyoming, North Dakota, and South Dakota, Lakotah stands as the ancestral tribal homeland of the Lakota Sioux, who held the Black Hills in profound reverence. Once upon a time, even the U.S. government acknowledged this sanctity. In 1868, a treaty was forged between the Lakota tribe and Washington, securing their rightful claim to the territory. The linguistic landscape in Montana doesn't echo with Sioux languages today due to the gold rush. Faced with a surge of prospectors inundating the Black Hills, the government conveniently disregarded its own treaty, allowing the forceful displacement of the Lakota from their land. In a retrospective assessment in 1998, the Supreme Court denounced the episode as a more ripe and rank case of dishonest dealings may never be found in our history. While the court proposed a compensation of $600 million to the Lakota, they declined the monetary offer, opting instead to declare unilateral withdrawal from the United States. In 2007, a formal petition was submitted to Washington, as the tribe sought the amalgamation of its reservations into a sovereign nation. As of 2015, the Lakota persist in recognizing themselves as an independent state and are actively campaigning for international acknowledgement. 9. Balochistan. August 11, 1947, marks a significant day in the Baloch region, a sprawling province constituting nearly 45% of Pakistan. According to Baloch nationalists, this is the day when Balochistan declared independence. Their narrative asserts that the British acknowledged the territory as a separate state just before departing, only for Pakistan to allegedly annex it unlawfully less than a year later. On the contrary, Pakistan contends that the four provinces comprising Balochistan willingly agreed to join the newly formed country. Regardless of the historical veracity, one cannot ignore the strained relations between modern Balochistan and its governing authorities. The province spiraled into unrest after a Pakistani army captain's assault on a local girl in 2005, and this turbulence has persisted ever since. As of the current situation, the aspiring nation is effectively under military control, yet its government in exile persists in advocating for either complete independence from Pakistan or, at the very least, full autonomy. While many Balochs harbor suspicion towards Islamabad and aspire to break away, achieving this goal appears to be an unlikely prospect at the moment. 8. Northern Epirus. In 2008, Kosovo officially declared its independence from Serbia and, with the backing of Albania, established its own operational government. This decision stirred discontent in Belgrade for various reasons, one of which may have been perceived as Albania's inconsistency. Despite supporting Kosovo's bid for statehood, Albania has long overlooked another aspiring state in its own southern region, Northern Epirus. This enclave, housing 40,000 ethnic Greeks within Albania, has grappled with uneasy relations with Tirana for several decades. From 1946 to 1986, Greece and Albania were technically in a state of war over the province's status. As recently as 2013, Albania's foreign minister expressed dissatisfaction that Greece had yet to repeal a law related to the region, maintaining a state of frozen conflict between the two nations. Although the inhabitants of northern Epirus aspire to become part of Greece, the province already operates as a quasi-autonomous entity. During the years of communist rule, the Albanian dictator Enver Hoxha granted the community control over 99 villages in the area. Today, the Greek population in the region claims this autonomy has resulted in discrimination against them by Tirana. 7. Abkhazia. What defines a nation? Abkhazia possesses distinct ethnic demographics, borders rooted in historical boundaries, an autonomous military, a functional government, its own national bank, issued passports, and acknowledgment from at least 4 UN member nations: Russia, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Nauru. Despite these attributes, over 90% of the world continues to view it as a province of Georgia, the country it separated from in a devastating 1992 to 1993 conflict. Historically, Abkhazia's status resembles that of an independent nation, akin to regions like Wales. From the 9th century to 1008 Anno Domini, it operated as a sovereign kingdom before being absorbed into Georgia and later into Russia. The dissolution of the USSR prompted the people of Abkhazia to proclaim a return to their medieval borders, triggering a fierce war with Georgia. Massive ethnic cleansing ensued, leading to the exodus of most Georgians from the province and most Abkhazians from Georgia. Since 1999, Abkhazia has asserted itself as an independent state. The limited global recognition of Abkhazia may be attributed to Russia's involvement. Since the early 2000s, Russia has strategically used Abkhazia to antagonize its adversary, Georgia. In the 2008 Russia-Georgia War, Putin exploited the aspiring state to open a new front against Tbilisi. Speaking of which, 6. South Ossetia. Nestled in the northern expanse of Georgia, South Ossetia encompasses a mere 4,000 square kilometers, 1,500 square miles, of rugged windswept mountainous terrain, housing a population of only 50,000. Despite its modest size, the inhabitants firmly believe in the autonomy of their territory, viewing it as an independent nation. Possessing a distinctive language and sharing closer ethnic ties with Russia's Ossetians than their fellow Georgians, the people of South Ossetia, akin to Abkhazia, asserted their independence in response to the disintegration of the USSR. In contrast to Abkhazia, the war that followed this declaration in 1992 did not yield a clear resolution. By its conclusion, South Ossetia remained an uneasy part of Georgia, now patrolled by peacekeepers from both nations, along with Russia. The resentment stemming from the conflict simmered for 14 years until a 2006 autonomy referendum reignited tensions. In 2008, Georgia attempted to assert control over its restless province, sending in tanks, only to be repelled by Russia's invasion. Since then, South Ossetia has existed in a de facto independent state, boasting its own government. However, this situation appears precarious. In October 2015, President Leonid Tibilov expressed the intention to formally integrate the territory into Russia, signaling a potential shift in the region's geopolitical status. 5. Barotseland. Spanning a Central African floodplain comparable in size to England, Barotseland proudly claims the title of the world's youngest nation-state. In March 2012, the Barotse National Council made the unilateral decision to declare independence from Zambia, stemming from a promise broken nearly 5 decades prior. As per the Barotseland royal household, the 1964 treaty that brought Barotseland into Zambia was intended to grant the kingdom complete autonomy within the nation. Before this agreement, the region stood as an independent nation, officially recognized by the colonial British administration. However, the moment the treaty was inked, Zambia fully incorporated Barotseland, reducing it to little more than an ordinary province with no distinct status. Over the ensuing decades, any attempts to advocate for independence were met with forceful suppression, marked by beatings and bullets. This situation is particularly bitter given Barotseland's historical significance as the heart of an empire extending from Angola to Namibia and reaching into the modern Democratic Republic of the Congo, while also controlling the majority of Zambia. Despite the modest request of the current royal household, seeking the return of a small strip of 126,000 square kilometers, 50,000 square miles, the entire western province of the government in Lusaka has chosen to disregard their pleas entirely. 4. Chinland. Occupying the western border of Myanmar, adjacent to India and Bangladesh, Chinland is the residence of approximately 1.5 million people and boasts a diverse array of tribes. The region is home to at least 6 major ethnic groups, further divided into 63 tribes that collectively communicate in around 20 languages. Despite this rich diversity, a shared historical grievance against Myanmar unites them all. Before the 18th century, Chinland's borders extended across significant portions of Myanmar, Bangladesh, and a segment of northeastern India. However, the arrival and conquest by the British in that era disrupted Chinland's present and cast a shadow on its future. As the British Empire withdrew from the subcontinent in the late 1940s, it left the nascent nation vulnerable to its larger neighbors. In a swift turn of events, Chinland was absorbed into what was then known as Burma. Since then, Chin nationalists have fervently advocated for either an independent state or for Myanmar to transform into a comprehensive federation, granting them exclusive rights. Given the current tumultuous upheaval within the government in Naypyidaw, it remains uncertain whether their aspirations may be realized in the near future. 3. Degar. Much like others on this roster, the Degar people fell victim to the aftermath of colonialism. Hailing from the central mountains of Vietnam and practicing Christianity, they had long faced persecution for their religious beliefs. A significant shift occurred with the arrival of the French, who recognized them as the Montagnard. The Degar forged an alliance with their colonial rulers, and in return, they were promised a state of their own. In 1946, plans for the Pays Montagnard du Sud were devised, envisioning a separate territory ruled by an emperor, distinct from the rest of Vietnam. This dream appeared to be on the brink of realization for a brief period. However, in 1954, the French abruptly abandoned their ambitions in the region. Before the Degar state could materialize, the French withdrew, leaving a void in their wake. In the absence of the French, the Degar aligned themselves with U.S. special forces in the area. They soon controlled bases within the proposed kingdom's territory, contributing to the fight against the Viet Cong. Once again, the prospect of formalizing their nation emerged, only to be thwarted by historical forces. Following the communist victory in the Vietnam War, the Degar lost everything. Many sought refuge in the U.S. or Cambodia. Presently, they view themselves as a suppressed minority in Vietnam, persistently striving to reclaim the state that history unjustly withheld from them. 2. Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. Nagorno-Karabakh, referred to as Artsakh by its residents, remains a post-Soviet state entrenched in a time warp. Despite having its own government, constitution, and military, it lacks recognition from any other country, including Russia. The global consensus designates it as part of Azerbaijan, the nation it engaged in a brutal war of independence against from 1991 to 1994. Geographical factors contribute to this lack of recognition, as Nagorno-Karabakh is entirely surrounded by Azerbaijan. Wedged in the mountains and only slightly larger than South Ossetia, it stands as one of the most geographically inconvenient aspiring countries on the planet. A slender corridor of occupied Azerbaijani territory forms its sole link to Armenia, whose people share ethnic roots with Nagorno-Karabakh's citizens, resembling a narrow umbilical cord. The prospect of Armenia and Azerbaijan reaching a consensus on Nagorno-Karabakh's status seems improbable. The post-Soviet war witnessed a distressing degree of ethnic cleansing on both sides, and skirmishes still claim dozens of lives annually. 1. The Sovereign Military Order of Malta. In contrast to nearly every other clandestine nation on this compilation, the Sovereign Military Order of Malta boasts global recognition. With bilateral relations established with 105 countries and diplomatic ties with an additional 6, plus Palestine, the order holds a permanent observer status at the UN, and its passports find acceptance in many major nations worldwide. Astonishingly, despite this extensive diplomatic standing, the order possesses no territorial claims whatsoever. This enigmatic existence is a product of the order's remarkably protracted history. Originating as a group of Catholic knights in the 11th century, it initially occupied and owned the island of Malta. However, in 1798, the arrival of Napoleon led to their expulsion from their homeland. The order then resettled in Italy, where Catholic nations continued to acknowledge it as a legitimate entity. Remarkably, this status endured for the subsequent 217 years. At present, the order exercises control over only 2 buildings in Rome. It expresses no desire to reclaim the island of Malta, and its 13,500 members primarily engage in humanitarian endeavors. Nevertheless, for over half of the world's nations, including a majority of the EU and Canada, the order persists as a functioning state, enjoying privileges equivalent to many sovereign nations. And there you have it, curious minds. From the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, a fascinating anomaly in the realm of hidden nations with a history spanning over 900 years, to the Republic of Lakotah. If you found this exploration intriguing, don't forget to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more captivating insights into the lesser-known corners of our world. We love diving into the extraordinary, and if there are other hidden nations or unique stories you'd like us to unravel, let us know. Your feedback fuels our curiosity. As we conclude this journey, remember to stay curious, keep exploring, and never underestimate the tales woven into the fabric of history. Thank you for joining us today, and until our next adventure, take care and keep the spirit of exploration alive.